Servus, my motorbike friends. I am back to keep a promise. I called Andrea, a co-worker and friend, because I needed some video footage of the stock turn signals of her Harley SlimS for an install video, which I was going to prepare. And she was pleased to help, and she mentioned that there are still some heated grips waiting in her basement, and I promised to install them. Okay, here we go. Heated grips, quick and dirty. Quick because this video is edited, takes only 14 minutes, and dirty because it's not according to the book, but it works pretty well. So, we need to pull the fuel tank back, so therefore it's necessary to purge the fuel line. So we remove the console in order to get access to the fuel pump connector. It's a 1/2-inch socket. Then we remove the dashboard and disconnect the fuel pump. Thereafter we start the bike up, wait until the engine dies and operate the starter for another 3 seconds, and then we are sure that there's no fuel pressure remaining in the fuel line, and so it is safe to disconnect the fuel line down at the fuel tank. As we are working on the electric system, it's necessary to disconnect the main fuse. Therefore we remove the seat, and after we have the key with the fob ready with us, we turn on the ignition and then remove the cover of the fuse box, and with the ignition on we pull out the main fuse, but first we need to remove the cover. I don't want to break anything, and here we go and remove the main fuse, and then we can switch off the ignition switch. From there on we start with the left hand grip. So we remove the switch housing of the left hand grip. It's a little torque screw, one on top, one at the bottom. And then we remove the upper switch housing. And as we are not going to reuse the grip, we just cut it away. Here are the cables from the heated grips, and those sockets are just too big that we can feed them through the handlebar. So we take a picture in order to have the orientation of the wiring with this, which is essential for reconnecting them. And then we remove the pins. So first we have to lift up the safety bar at the end, and then with a small screwdriver there's a small plastic flap on top of each pin, and you push the plastic flap upwards and then you pull the cable gently out of the housing. That's the reinstallation again. Here you see the safety clip, and that's it. The other cable works as well, so the safety clip is open, and then once again a small hole on the opposite of the connector. Lift the plastic tab and then you can remove the cable. And later on for reinstalling, when you push the pin in again, make sure that it's all in and clicks in, and then you push down the safety bar. Okay, still at the left hand grip, I pushed in a brass bar from the center of the handlebar, and we connect now a small chain in order to pull the cables through the handlebar. So why not installing the cables right away at the brass bar? It is just maybe not sticky enough. So I prefer to do it this way, and then we attach the first pair of cable, and then with a little distance, not to have the whole thing getting too big or too wide, we attach the second pair of wiring. Everything nice and smooth, and as the handlebars of the Slim doesn't have too tight corners, I didn't use any glass cleaner as a lubricant, so it works pretty well. My helper Harald is feeding the cables and we are already successful. So here is the outlet for the cables in the middle of the handlebar. Okay, then I pull a little bit more of the cables through the handlebar and we attach the left hand heated grip. There's only one way regarding the orientation, because you see those small plastic tabs on the inner side of the grip, and those are clamped by the switch housing. So there's only one way to attach the left hand handlebar. So therefore I always recommend to start with the left hand handlebar, so we can do the orientation of the right one according to this. And now we tighten the switch housing screws again, first loosely, and then we start tightening the lower one. Make sure that the gap is small and even between the two housings, and then we tighten the upper one. And then switching already to the right hand grip, the switch housing is removed, the grip is removed, and now we need to remove the seal cap at the end of the twist grip sensor. Then we remove the end cap of the heated grip, and then we see the heated grip connector. It's a round connector, but the pins are not symmetrical, so they are offset, and there's only one way to connect this little plug onto the twist grip sensor. It's pretty easy. And then, thank you Harley, I love manufacturing tolerances. Well, I know these bikes need to work at Alaska, way below 0 temperatures, and in Arizona, but it's just too much play. So I recommend from Louis, I put in a link in the description, Teflon foil, especially for hand grips, for throttle grips, and this foil fits exactly between the stock handlebar and the stock Harley grips, and there's almost no play, but still the throttle grip is easy to operate and returns to idle without any resistance. Now connecting the heated grip onto the twist grip sensor. I mentioned only one way as it is offset. And if that's done, make sure all the cables are inside the grip, and then observe the 3 plastic tabs on the grip and install the end cap again. Now we have almost no play within the grip. It's a really nice feeling, but nevertheless double or triple check with everything attached and fastened that there's no resistance and the grip is returning to idle as soon as it is released. So a little bit of play in this direction, it's okay. Almost no play along the handlebar, and double, triple check that there's no resistance, because it's really dangerous if the throttle grip stays where it is. Now we need to pull back the fuel tank. We remove the lower screw, the rear screw and the front screw. The lower one is a Torx, and we put some towel onto the rocker box in order to avoid scratching it, because the inner connection tube from the fuel tank has some metal clamps, and there's a risk that you are scratching the top of the rocker box. So be very careful, disconnect the fuel vent and then pull back the tank as far as possible in order to get access to the electrical connectors underneath this rubber boot that is now visible. Then we reconnect the plugs onto the heated grips wires that we pulled through the handlebar, and we route the cables along all the other cables from the handlebar down to the frame tube underneath the fuel tank. The throttle grip connector is very easy to be identified, and you just connect the black and white cable into that, and then here comes the dirty way. There's another open connector used for the turn signals on the Heritage and the Deluxe, and this one has power. It is let me check, the connector 31B, a 6-place TYCO multilock unsealed connector, and we can use pin number 1 and 3 or pin number 6 and 4. The outside 1 or 6 is for ground, and the inner one 3 or 4 is for power. So make sure the black cable of our extension on the outside pin and the red one on pin number 3 or 4. And then we put in our quick and dirty cable. Reconnect it to the heated grip cable. And I tested this assembly for quite some years on another SLIM, same model, same heated grips. They work perfectly, no problem with the electrical overload, as the mentioned connector is secured as well. So the tank gets back into its original position. We have to reconnect the fuel vapor line and then connect the tighten the screws. The front screw is tightened with 28 up to 32 foot-pound. That's 38 up to 43 Newton meters, and the rear one 18 to 22 foot-pounds or 25 to 29 Newton meters. So then we need to reconnect the fuel pump. Make sure when we tighten the fuel console or the dashboard that every cables and vent lines are properly underneath it, and then the instrument console screw doesn't have much torque. It's just 30 to 50 inch-pounds or 3.5 up to 5.7 Newton meters. So Harald is doing this with his hands. Then we reconnect the main fuse. We switch on the ignition with the key available, put in the fuse, then we can turn off the ignition, reattach the cap, stow everything in place, and then reattach the seat. Of course, the seat is tightened properly, not just by hand as mentioned here. And we are done. So it was really quick. In real time it took us a little bit longer, and now we are ready. I'll be back with warm hands.